Hello, buyers and sellers. I'm David Silletta with Remax Camosun and the Island Homes Group. And today I'm going to break down, is now a good time to buy? As we all know, the market is surging and it's been extremely active. Prices are on the climb, but I get the question often, is now a good time to purchase a home? And I think it's probably best to look back in history to see about moving forward if today is the right time for you to actually purchase a home in the Victoria market. So a huge shout out to Mr. Rudge from the Rudge Report who provided these slides. We're going to break it down. We're going to look back in history to see if it's a good time to buy in the future. So we'll jump right into it. So average historical prices, we're going to look back all the way through 1967, all the way through to today. Jumping right in. So from 1967 all the way through to today. So the question would be, if you purchased a home in 1967, is it a great investment? I'd say so. That average home price is now upwards of $1.3 million. Breaking down. So we're going to look into segments here. 1967 through to 73. We had about a 2% return on investment. So 37,000 home turned into 41,000. So fairly flat. Over the next 7 years, we had some great growth. We had 15% return from 41,000 all the way up to 126,000. Fast forward another 7 years, 8-year cycle here. We saw a big correction in the market through the early 80s. My dad told me about these times when interest rates were hitting all-time highs, 20+%. We saw a decrease, 26% in 4 years. So that is a major market crash and correction. But the silver lining here is if you were to hold that investment through the next 3 years, it gained 36% and basically leveled out. So you see here, you have an annualized return of 0.01%. So absolutely flat if you were able to hold on long enough. The next 1988 through 1994, we saw a 12% return. So your average home price at 127,000 is now 256,000. Back into a flat market, 256 to 251, just slightly decreased, and that was over the next 6 years here. So not sure if you're picking up the trend yet, but if I just scroll back a few slides, what I'm starting to see is flat, and then 7 years of up, down and flat, 7 years of up, 7 years of flat, 7 years of up. So as we see these trends, we're just trying to predict the future and just try and see how we're going to shape up here in the next little while. But 2000 to 2007, another 13% growth. And then 2007 to 2014, absolutely flat. Now, some of these flats and ups are due to government policy, interest rates. So obviously the early 80s, that was a massive interest rate hike, and then it flattened out as that settled back down. Then we had some nice growth here through the late 80s, early 90s. Then we had some government policy changes, which created another flat market for quite some time. And then nice hikes again, back into a flat. And now this is our graph looking basically a 7-year return. So, or 7% return, 10% annualized is the green line here over the next 10 years. So this graph here basically indicates the markets where we've had massive corrections. So 81 through 85, the 26% slide, 95 through 98 with a 5% slide, and 2011 to 2014 and another slide there with some flat markets in between. So I guess if you were to purchase a house at $126,000 in 1981 with a massive market crash and the house dropped all the way to $93,000, that would seem pretty devastating at the time. But if you were to hold that property just 10 years, you would have been up to 256,000. So would you have minded purchasing at 126,000 if in the next 10 years your property had doubled? Probably not, but it would have seemed pretty um, devastating at the time to have experienced a 26% decrease in your property value. So as we move through these, this kind of indicates, is it possible to time the market? If you had the knowledge to time this perfectly, first of all, what would the difference have been over the past 30 years? Probably not a huge significant amount. And timing the market is extremely difficult. So when I do hear people say, I'm going to sell, I'm going to rent for a while and get back in the market, that is extremely risky. I wouldn't advise on that. I think the idea is to purchase a home that you can live in for at least 10 years. So you can weather the storm in case we do see a decrease here in values. So moving forward to the end of the graph here, 2019, obviously we know what happened here. COVID hit and it turned the real estate market upside down. We've seen an absolutely stunning growth of 46%, all the way up to almost $1.3 million average home price in the Victoria market. That being said, some people are saying, can this keep going? Well, maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I don't have that crystal ball. But if we did experience a 5%, 10% correction, it would seem pretty devastating to a lot of folks. But if we were to hold that property long enough, history shows it does correct itself and it does carry on and move forward and upwards. So these graphs here, let me slip forward again, is basically indicating what was happening in the 2013, 2014 dip in the market. Why did we see that 5% negative growth? And here's our active listing count. So just reaching almost 4,900 in May. Now these are seasonal when it drops down to about 3,600 listings. And this is multiple listings. So listed on the multiple listing services in the Victoria area. $3,500 or 3,500 units in December, back up to about 4,800, 4,700 in July and August. And that's the peak of the market when we see listings come on. And then it slides back down into December. And that's pretty normal and seasonal. As we move forward here, this is a snapshot of 2020 and 2021. Our highest in 2020 in the spring market hit about 2,600. So already pretty low, traditionally compared to a more balanced market when we saw, 4,000 to 5,000 listings. Well, look at the end of the graph on 2021. We are down to about 600 listings, and we've been continually sliding since 21, the beginning of 21, all the way to the end. And this number has not gotten any better in 2022. So there is a threat of some interest rate hikes coming up. That may slow the market down just a touch. The province is also mandating a cooling off period, which is probably a whole nother video in itself. But is that going to be enough? Probably not. Not until we see a massive amount of supply come to the market will we see those prices change. So there's a bit of a disconnect between municipal government, who basically approves the density within our municipalities in Victoria. The province and the feds have their own mandates, but again, they don't actually impact the amount of supply in our local markets. That's on the municipal level. So until we can figure that disconnect out, we're going to see a continual decrease in inventory. And again, that will affect our pricing, as this graph shows you here, just a massive spike as inventory decreases. So that kind of sums up the question. Is now a good time to buy? I think so. It's always a good time to buy. If you're willing to hold, obviously life circumstances do arise. Sometimes you get transferred for work. Sometimes you need to upsize, downsize, and it becomes very tricky to do that in certain segments of the market. But if you can purchase a home, stay in it for at least 10 years based on these graphs, you will do just fine if there is a bit of a market correction. I'm David Silletta with Remax Camosun, the Islands Home Group. We are happy to walk you through your scenario, personalize your situation, and figure out a plan moving forward in today's tricky market. Thanks.